Hey everybody, Bobby Klink from Your Online Genius here. Wanted to do a quick impromptu live today because because I got an email this morning that made me think about something. And I wanted to go ahead and talk about it before I forgot about it and really kind of give you my thoughts on this issue. And the important issue I wanted to talk about is that although you need to have a healthy respect for the law, you can't be so afraid of legal issues that you end up not taking reasonable actions from a marketing perspective. Now, this is an issue that I have to walk a fine line on, right? Because I have to make sure that entrepreneurs like you understand that you can't just ignore the law, right? That's an important concept that I believe in. I believe that if you ignore the law, that's a mistake and it could hurt you. So I have to make sure you understand that. But I also want to make sure that you understand that you can't be afraid of the law. You can't be walking around saying or thinking to yourself that you might make a mistake and that it's going to have tragic consequences. And so you end up kind of paralyzed in fear and can't act. That's a big mistake. And it's come up recently for me in the context of the GDPR. I know I talk about that a lot. I'm going to use it here to try to use it as an analogy, but it's also, I think, a good point. In the context of the GDPR, I've heard a lot of people who have now taken the perspective of just saying, look, this is so hard. I want to comply. I want to be 100% compliant. So I'm just going to require the GDPR level consents from everybody. And this is, I'm talking about people in the United States who are then going to say, I just want to put a checkbox. I want to get the right consents that would comply with GDPR from everybody, even people I don't need those consents from under the law. Now, the rationales are all over the place, and they try to tell me that there's good reasons for doing it, that there are good marketing reasons, but I got to call BS on that. Look, let's be very clear about this fact. If it were a good idea from a marketing perspective for us to be getting GDPR level consents from everyone, we would have been doing it already. The fact that no one was doing that before the GDPR is a pretty good sign that it's not a good marketing tactic. And let's talk about why it's not a good marketing tactic. It's not a good marketing tactic because we all know that if you put that checkbox, if you put a drop-down menu, if you put any of that stuff, you're going to lose a lot of people who would otherwise be subscribed to your list. And those are people that you could be talking to, you could be nurturing, you could be giving your content to. And I'm not talking about spamming them. If you're spamming them, if you're sending a bunch of horrible content that's just promotion, that's not going to help you, okay? But if you get people on your list and you show them the value of being on your list, you're giving them good stuff, you're giving them freebies, you're giving them links to blog posts that can really help them, you're giving them all of that stuff, guess what? Someone who wouldn't have checked that box, who would not have agreed to be on your list at the outset, will ultimately be someone who finds that your message is useful, that they can use your services, that you can help them. And if you go overboard and say, I'm going to go ahead and require GDPR level consent from everyone, even people I don't have to get that consent from, what you're going to be doing is preventing those people from ever getting to the point of getting to know you. They're never going to find you. They're never going to hear your message. You're never going to nurture them. You're never going to be able to help them. And so you're making a mistake from your perspective as a marketer. You're also making a mistake in not serving those people correctly. So that's the point I want to make. And again, I'm going to come back to this point. People have given me various concerns about why they want to do this. Some people say, well, I want to go ahead and do it because I think the US might adopt this standard sometime. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the US is going to adopt a GDPR level consent standard for putting people on your email list anytime soon. I can give you a lot of reasons why that is, including the fact that right now in the United States, you don't even need consent at all. Even implied consent, even forced consent. You can add someone to your email list in the United States right now without any kind of permission. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Canned spam does not even require consent. And so for the United States to go from one of the most liberal policies about allowing people to be added to your list all the way to a GDPR level standard in a matter, in one file swoop seems unlikely to me. Moreover, let's be honest, the United States political system is not exactly one that acts quickly, so I don't see it coming anytime soon. So I don't see it happening, but I will entertain the possibility that it might happen in the future. But even if that's the case, are you really going to argue to me that it makes sense to say, I'm going to make bad marketing decisions for the next year, 2 years, however long it's going to be, and not be able to market to people over that period because I'm afraid of the GDPR or something like that being adopted by the United States? If so, let's be honest, you're going to lose a long time, 2 years, let's say, of marketing to a very large portion of your list. Can you really tell me that it's a good decision to say cut the size of your list in half over the next 2 years because you're adopting this high standard that you don't have to adopt because you don't want to have to do some work 2 years down the line if the United States adopts the standard? That's not a good decision. It's not a good marketing decision. It's not a good way to go. So I'm going to tell you from that perspective, it's not good because you're going to lose all that time. But let me give you the other reason why saying, well, I'm just going to adopt the GDPR level standard for everybody doesn't make sense. It's because the next standard may very well not be the GDPR standard. It may be something different, something higher, something in a different way. Look, before GDPR, people who were already applying industry best practices were not meeting the standard that we now have to meet for people in the EU. And so even if you adopt right now what you view as the best practice, that may not mean that your list is fine 2 years from now. You may have to make changes whenever the new legal standard comes up. That's just the nature of life. That's the nature of the law, and that's the nature of business. And so the point I'm making here is you shouldn't say, well, I'm going to adopt this so I don't have to worry about this in the future. Well, because that's not necessarily going to be the case. Okay, so I'm going to get off of GDPR now. What I'll tell you is, if you're interested on the GDPR in taking reasonable steps and really trying to get a good system set up that is good from a marketing perspective, but also complies with the law, I've still got my free GDPR training that you can take. You can just go, I've got a link in the body of this where you can find it. You can go there. It's free, 3-part training series where you'll get all the details about that. But now I'm going to transition out of the GDPR and talk more generally. The point I want you to make is that you need to understand the law. You need to have an understanding of it. You need to get the concepts, but don't let it paralyze you in fear. You need to continue to get ideas about what's the legal requirement, but then balance that against the marketing perspective. And that's where it makes sense to talk these things through, to find this information so that you understand it, but then apply your marketing mind. And don't be too afraid. Look, there are certain things that if you miss, it can be catastrophic. There's no doubt about that. But a lot of these decisions are going to be things where there is gray area, where you can push the limit at times, and pushing the limit isn't wrong here necessarily. It's just saying, hey, this is allowed, so I'm going to do it. That's a perfectly acceptable way to view how you're going to handle the legal issues. So again, you may decide that in certain areas it's worth pushing the limit. Other areas it's not. In a lot of areas, the answer is going to be you need to be reasonable about it. You need to think these things through. You need to have a basic understanding of them, and then you need to take steps based upon that. But the biggest thing is you just need to understand the law. Once you understand the legal concepts, you will be in a much better position to actually follow through and apply those standards in a good marketing perspective at the same time. That's what I try to help online entrepreneurs do. If you have any questions, if things come up, feel free to ping me here. Join my group, the Legal Secrets for Online Entrepreneurs, where I deal with these issues all the time for folks. I'm trying to help folks get to the point that they are, legal savvy online entrepreneurs who can handle the legal stuff, but also make wise decisions. I think that's the big point, and that's what we need to do. So that's it for today. Again, I just wanted to jump on because I got this email that was talking about how someone was afraid to do anything and just wanted to get full GDPR level consent. And so I wanted to talk about it and say why I think that's a mistake. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find it useful. If you have any questions, feel free to put a comment below or reach out and let me know what I can do to be helpful. Anyway, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later.